everybody. It's nice to be here. I will stand up one so you can see me a bit better and actually hear me. I'm not a natural presenter, so I do apologize for the smoothness of my delivery, but I will do my best. These are subjects very, very important and I feel passionate about. So, cultural resilience. I'm just wondering, in the room, we have seafarers, maybe we have shore people. Has anybody been in a position where the reality of the situation and the procedures that you are given to deal with it are different? Most assuredly. That gap between what we say we're wanting to do and what we actually intend or end up doing, that's where cultural resilience, the cultural influences, and the human factors with their performance resides. Yeah, I've got it. So I should have done a wee test. Human factors, that's called learning and practice. Our dilemma for the industry is this. On the left, we have the procedures. On the right, the reality of the situation. How do we actually go from using these procedures to dealing with this? I'm a resilient leadership consultant. When we do this, we talk about how are we managing people's going from pressure to stress. So, the industry does talk about this 80%. I'm in agreement. There's 100% influence of human factors in everything that happens. But the problem is we're still looking from the human error point of view, that it is a final destination. When there's an incident, the human factors is a starting point. It is a place to look to improve the system behind it. And until we reframe that, we're not going to change anything. Reframing safety. With the upcoming decarbonization and digitalization, our systems are going to become more complex. The requirements are going to be introducing new dangers. And yet our biggest safety challenge, which is human performance, is largely unaddressed. I know this. I go on ships all the time. I am a SAFETY4SEA inspector. I also go into companies and audit the companies. And the attention people give to human performance is still at the moment not at the level that the industry will require. So we have already in the systems human factors, performance shaping requirements. When we do our SAFETY4SEA inspections, we're looking if there are any human findings, where do they live? So we have the 9 SAFETY4SEA PIFs. We also have the cultural influences, which is our thoughts, our words empower our thoughts, which then set our state of mind, our mindset, which the last panel discussed very nicely. Those mindsets drive our choices and behaviors and lead to the outcomes. So if we want to learn, as we need to, from anything, whether it's a near miss or an incident, we need to understand how that works. So we talked about incentivizing the industry. OCIMF, TMSA, Element 14 is coming. This will be a requirement. What does it look like? Well, the cultural maturity model is this. If you want an optimized cultural resilience within your organization and reliable human performance, you need to set out and map the KPIs for leading and shaping your culture. Realistic procedures and tasks. As I showed you, the difference between the reality and the procedure, there is a big gap, particularly with contingency at the moment. Human-centered equipment and controls. The equipment fitted on board, the questions are not always what is best for the people, what is easiest for them to use, what is safest for them to use. We see a lot of equipment on ships which are not cleverly designed and actually introduce hazards to the ship. Adaptive operational skills. The ability to deal with contingencies. I've been in a few, which is why I've actually suffered a trauma. So it's when I'm in situations like this, it gets very difficult for me to actually stay calm. I do apologize for that. I have had a lot of trauma counseling, but I am getting there. But it is a little bit, so please just be understanding for me, please. And the fifth pillar from the OCIMPS model is the learning before and after events. Any company will need to demonstrate what they're doing with all of these 5 pillars. Where do they come from? Well, it's mostly the work of Hobbs and Reason and Sidney Dekker. So they are big human factors experts in other industries that we in OCIMF have pulled together, and with known current experts, these are the models that we've now come to. So, with obviously the changing systems we have, we're getting more digitalized ships. The instrumentation, the use of the hectares compared to a paper chart is much more complicated. So we need stronger human engagement. Those soft skills, the people skills, I prefer to call them, because the soft skills, not necessarily, they're not soft at all. They are essential. But they must evolve together. And with the energy transition, particularly for fuels like ammonia, which is toxic, I can't believe we're even talking about it, but we need to have new competencies on board and making sure that those competencies are properly delivered. It's not just a question of ensuring you've got a certificate, but of proper training development, not episodal, but long-term proper training. That will then ensure capability. The people matter. And the more training that we're giving, the more complicated the industry becomes, the more challenging it is in terms of retention and the well-being of the crews on board. We need to deal with these things. Future safety performance depends on the people, not just the technology. So what have we got in this industry so far? We have the frameworks from TMSA, Element 14, which currently within OCIMPS committees we are discussing how we're going to actually introduce this, but it is imminent. This means you're going to have to integrate human factors in all areas and levels of the organization. So it's not going to be a nice to have, it will be a requirement. When properly understood, the SAIA PIFs actually enhance and improve the safety performance on board. I'll often, if I'm giving a human finding on board during an inspection, the next question is, how are we going to deal with this? And I says, well, what are the PIFs involved? And then just use open questions to get them to explore how to get better. And when we shift that focus away from the blame so that we're actually looking to learning before and after events. And we're looking at human performance as not as an end point to an investigation, but to an actual means of improving and preventing incidents in the future. Then we are going to bring human factors and our cultures to life. So in terms of aligning, and they talk about work as imagined, which is what the procedures come from, to work as actually done, the operational actual application of those procedures. So, how do we do that? If we are gathering the proper information and we are talking to the people who are actually doing the doing, which is a requirement of the TMSA Element 14, we will get to a better place, and I'll demonstrate how that happens in a minute. When systems reflect reality, people will perform at their best. Cultural resilience is a safety advantage. When people feel safe to speak up, and I do this, I also have done full organizational cultural changes successfully within organizations, not the least of which was the company I used to work for, Tarquin Gas Carriers, who, with our team, we actually became the safest company in the world. But that was by improving the way we were reporting. So people matter. Technologies evolve, regulations evolve, ships evolve. Human performance remains the decisive factor. If we spend energy to build a culture and strengthen our performance, we will improve the safety. Just very quickly, I will relate one thing from discussions I've had, and I work beyond the marine industry, and this is the power industry. So this guy, he goes up the pylons with the very high electricity, and when they got there, there's 3 of them. In case one of them has a problem, the other 2 can help get them down. And I said, well, how can I help? And he says, well, I was up the pylon a couple of months ago, and my mate had a heart attack. So we instigated the procedures, we used the equipment, and we tried to get him down. He didn't, and he died. So, from what we're doing, how does that work? Sorry, I did actually give an updated presentation, but this is the old one. This one, leading the culture. For that guy, I said to him, a couple of questions off the top of my head. Who wrote the procedures? The manager. I said, when was the manager last up the pylon? Never. I said, when did you last test the procedure? He said, we never did. He says, why? It was deemed too dangerous. The difference between work as imagined and the reality of the situation. You can't leave someone in that negative position. Psychology, the way the human brain works, very important. The focus must be on the safeguards. So I said to him, if you were to rewrite the procedures, what procedures and equipment would you do? And he talked for 10 minutes non-stop. It was like a gushing. Finally, somebody had asked him. So when you have a safety culture and you get that psychological safety, these things would have been found before the event. Realistic procedures, they would have been tested. They would have been consulting the people doing the doing. Yeah. I will say no more because there's nothing more needing to be said. I think you all understand this model will answer those questions. Thank you very much.